Hey everyone, I'm Eric Kimball. I'm out here in my mini bed garden. It is spring. I'm harvesting rye that I planted last fall, winter rye. It was maybe this tall in the spring, and now look at it. It's almost 2 feet tall. So I'm going to be planting tomatoes in a couple days, and I want to prepare these beds by, for now, taking off the rye. And the beauty of rye is that it puts an enormous amount of root mass into the ground, and that's what we want. Mini bed gardening is a minimal tillage system, and the normal way of dealing with winter rye in a conventional garden is to till it under in the spring. But that's not the mini bed system. With this system, I harvest off the top growth, don't till it in, leave the majority of the mass of roots, and rye puts out an enormous mass of roots in the soil. Some of the roots come up when I harvest, as I'll show you, but most of the roots, the vast majority of the roots, are down in the soil. You take the top growth off, and those roots are down there, and those roots are food for the micro herd in the soil. So that's the benefit. One of the benefits is that you're leaving the roots in the soil and there's minimal tillage. Okay, we're not coming in here, we're not tilling it up. We're not, it's not a lot of work. It's very manageable. The mini beds are manageable, and the mini beds are surrounded, as you may know if you've watched these videos, by 78% of the garden, I should say, is covered with the poly. And this is a permanent poly mulch. So there's no weeds in 78% of the garden. So we can focus on the mini beds, and we can do what I like to call high culture. We can put a lot of attention into the mini beds and get maximum productivity out of them. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to show you how I harvest this beautiful top growth of rye. I'll show you what I do with it. Last year, almost all the mini beds in my garden got planted in the fall to winter rye. And in previous years, I planted by broadcasting the rye. I planted another year by putting the rye in rows. And last year, I decided to try the 13 spot planting template. Now, if you're familiar with the mini bed system, you've seen the 13 spot planting template. It basically is 13 spots equally spaced throughout the bed. And what I did was I put a pinch of seed in each spot. A pinch meaning like maybe 20 seeds. I didn't count them out, I just put a pinch of seed in all 13 spots. And what that did, and I'm very satisfied with what it did, is that it put up a bunch of rye in each of those spots. So when it comes to getting the rye off of the bed, I just have 13 bunches. It's so much more convenient. I will always plant rye with the 13 spot planting template from now on. And if you do this, I recommend it to you. Now there's two ways to get the rye off. One is to take a sharp hoe, and this is relatively sharp, and undercut the crowns of the rye. You have to get under the crown of the rye plant. And there's the crown right at the base. You have to get underneath that, because if you don't and you instead cut the rye off above the crown, it's going to regrow. So that's one option, okay? To chop under the crown and get yourself the bunches like that. The other option, which I tend to like better, is to just pull it up, okay? Now my soil's quite dry here, but yet, look, can you see the roots in that? I sure hope they're showing. Look at the root mass there. Now, what I do after I pulled it like that is just beat the soil out of it. And if your soil or your ground is really wet, you're not going to be able to do that so well. So it's timing. You do things when it's best. And when the soil's a little bit dry is the best time to do that. See that? So that's what I like to do. And it kind of tills the soil. The process of pulling that up kind of tills the soil, so it's not, you know, a purist no-till. But it's still only disturbing the very surface of the soil. And this can be done pretty quick, like you can see happening here. And it's not an unpleasant task. And I'm getting so much of this beautiful top growth, which is going to be used for mulch. My theory, my approach to mini bed gardening is to not import any mulch, to use my own leaves, my own kitchen waste, and different plantings around my little homestead here, or plants that are harvested, like you see right here, from the mini beds. That's where the mulch is coming from. I did experiment last year with using some other things for mulch. I used buckwheat hulls, which I happen to have. They're just too expensive to use for mulch, and I really didn't like them. My cats, they loved them, but I didn't care for them. But what did work quite well, and that's kind of off topic here, is the peat moss. Like an inch and a half layer of peat moss worked very nice. Okay, so there we go. We've harvested the rye off of that, and it's ready to plant. Alrighty, so the beds are basically ready for planting, but I'm not going to plant for a few days. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is get some of my biochar, which I showed in a previous video. I showed making biochar. I showed charging the biochar, and that's some of the buckets of it. And I'm just going to put this mulch right back over that. That's all I'm going to do for now. It's quick and easy. Oh, no, that's not all I want to do. I wanted to water the bed. I'm getting ahead of myself. I wanted to water, get it wet, and then put the mulch over it, so that I think 3 days from now, weather permitting, I will get my tomato plants in here, and so we'll get some biological activity going down there. A little wetter environment is better. Okay, so there we go. That's that. Now I'll show you one more thing. Okay, what you're looking at here is a mini bed that I planted about an hour ago. I harvested off the top growth of rye, and I planted 4 of these parsley plants. Okay, my wife actually bought these at the Amish greenhouse. I've planted seeds before, but I told her, hey, she was going to get flowers, and she said, do you want anything? I said, yeah, get me some parsley. So I planted 4 parsleys, and I watered it well, and I put the mulch, the rye mulch that came off of that bed right back onto the bed, and I've got a dandelion root in there, you can see, which is good mulch too. And that's it. That mini bed will grow into an enormous bush of parsley with 4 plants especially. 3 plants is enough, but they don't sell them by 3s, they sell them by 4s. All right, so there we go. I'll give you a little view out over the garden here. All those beds, all that good top growth is going to be put to good use here. And you can see I have my garlic beds looking pretty good, looking real good actually. I have one bed down here which, along with the leaves, I'm throwing my banana peels on there. This is going to be the banana peel and leaf experiment bed. The experiment of mini bed gardening continues. And one of these days, another year or two, I'll get the book, the mini bed book. But in the meantime, I have the mini bed trilogy, which outlines most of what I've learned in these years about mini bed gardening. You can get that at planetwhizbang.com. I'll put a link down below. That's it for now. Bye-bye, everybody.